Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Ryan McCombs, president of the St. Bonaventure College Republicans. I'm also a columnist at Right Side Talks, and this show is an extension of my journalism and activism. With that, I'm going to get straight into our topic for tonight, a topic that is on the mind of every American as we continue our talks and continue to strike Iran, and that topic is the American-Israeli alliance. Now, there are very sinister voices on the fringes of both parties who would have you believe that the American-Israeli alliance is a force for evil in our world, that it is somehow detrimental to the United States. But this contradicts the facts, it contradicts reason, it contradicts history, and it contradicts one of the most important principles of our movement as conservatives, which is our belief that when America is strong and involved in our world, she is a force for good. The world is a safer, more just place when America is strong and when America projects that strength on the world stage. Israel, naturally, is an extension of America's goodness on the world stage because she represents civilization in a region of the world that is otherwise uncivilized. So what are the implications of all this for our understanding of the trend within our culture right now? We know that Americans at large have a negative view of the American-Israeli alliance, and that's especially true among young people, which is very concerning to me as a young conservative. So how is it that we can change these trends? Well, first of all, we have to identify the groups that are driving this shift in Americans' attitude toward Israel. And there are two groups that I have identified: the woke right and the Islamist Marxist left. And these ideas are not unique to me. The alliance in the West between Islamists and Marxists, known as the Green-Red Alliance, is something that a number of conservative commentators have been talking about for years, including voices like Dinesh D'Souza, who has, I think, written an entire book on this subject. And of course, woke right, that phrase was coined by Fox News journalist Mark Levin, and brilliantly so, because by doing that, by saying woke right as opposed to woke right or new right, we are making a critical distinction. We are acknowledging that these people have no common cause with conservatives. These anti-Semites, these bigots, they have no place within the Republican Party. So what is the woke right strategy? How is it that the woke right convinces people who are otherwise quite conservative to oppose Israel? And the answer to that question is that anti-Israel sentiment within the woke right is grounded in isolationism, which is a suicidal ideology, and it's not a plausible foreign policy because weakness invites and welcomes aggression. And that's what people have got to understand about this conflict. Weakness, isolationism, appeasement politics, that's what got us into this mess with Iran. We saw it under Barack Obama and we saw it under Joe Biden. They literally sent pallets of cash to the mullahs in Tehran. President Biden unfroze $16 billion for Iran. And under his weak leadership, Iran was so emboldened that they actually made President Biden and his diplomats go through the Russians as an intermediary. Think about that. That's how emboldened they were by American weakness. We were the laughingstock on the world stage. And that's why what President Trump is doing right now with Operation Epic Fury, with these strikes, with these negotiations, is necessary. It's necessary to reestablish the deterrence that was squandered under President Biden. And that gets into what we're dealing with on the left with these Marxists and these socialists and these Islamists who oppose Donald Trump's righteous war effort because they believe that America is the unjust aggressor in all of this. They have completely bought into the Iranian propaganda machine that says the United States is the great Satan and Israel is the little Satan. And why is it that they portray us in this light, us and our most cherished ally, Israel? It's because they have an end goal, a common goal, which is the destruction of the West from within. That is the common goal between these Marxists and these Islamists, two groups that can never coexist anywhere else, and yet they work in perfect unison here in the United States on the premise that they will fight for power later, but must first destroy their common enemies, those enemies being individualism and capitalism, the principles upon which America was built, the principles that have given us the most righteous, prosperous nation that the world has ever known. Democrats despise America. They despise the very fabric of our constitutional republic. That is why the Marxists, the Islamists, the socialists, who were once considered fringe, who were once considered out of touch, extremists, radicals, now that's the status quo within the Democrat Party. And we know they hate America because of the way that they talk about our institutions, because of the way they talk about our Constitution. They want to reimagine it. They say we have to reimagine the Constitution. We have to reimagine the United States Supreme Court. Well, if you want to reimagine something, what that means is that you want to tear it down. What that means is you want to fundamentally change it. What that means is you want to replace it. And if you want to replace it, you cannot claim to love it. You cannot claim to so much as like it. You can't even say that there's some good in it. No, they want to burn it all down to the ground. And it wasn't always this way. It wasn't like this under FDR when Democrats actually went against FDR trying to pack the Supreme Court in an attempt to usher in welfare statism. It wasn't like this under Barack Obama when 10 Democrats voted with Republicans in support of background check legislation proposed by Senator Ted Cruz. We didn't always have this problem in America, but now we do. We're living in an America where Bernie Sanders, Ilhan Omar, Graham Plattner, the neo-Nazi from Maine, are defining the course of the Democrat Party, of one of America's major political parties. That should be frightening to all of us. Why? Because the enemy is no longer simply foreign. It is domestic. It is in the halls of Congress. The enemy is within. And if you want to know more about that, you can read my article, The Enemy Within, Islamism and Marxism in America, out on Substack. Make sure to read it. So, what's the takeaway here? What must we do as conservatives? First, we have to hold the line for Israel, for our ally, for American strength on the world stage, for American exceptionalism. And then we have to stand up to the collectivist, suicidal voices that exist on the fringes of both major political parties, the Cenk Uygurs, the Anna Kasparians, the Tucker Carlsons, the Nick Fuenteses of the world. We need to get these people out of our party, and we're doing just that. We saw it in Kentucky. President Trump's endorsement drove out this radical, this lunatic, Thomas Massie, who's obsessed with Israel, who's obsessed with the so-called Epstein cabal. That nonsense needs to get out of our party, and President Trump is driving it out. He's not going to allow these people to redefine MAGA. And if you want to know more about that, stay tuned for my upcoming article, Will the Real MAGA Please Stand Up? That is the bottom line. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to tune in to next week's episode.